Good morning, Titans. Last week, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Dane, and Mrs. Cabrera came to me with an idea to kind of provide you guys with some information about what's going on in the Middle East. A couple weeks ago, Hamas attacked Israel, and since then, Israel has responded with all-out war. They asked me to do this because I used to teach this, and it's nice to get to teach again. I haven't gotten to do it in 3 years, so I'm kind of excited. Unfortunately, I wish it was a more positive subject. But I wanted to give you guys a history lesson on what's going on in the Middle East. And then I'll follow it up with a video that kind of brings everything that I said all together. So, obviously, for centuries, thousands of years, the area in Israel, known as the Holy Land, has been home to three major religions: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. All have a connection to that place. Palestinian Arabs have lived in the region for many years. Jews have lived in the region for many years. But there's this word called diaspora, which means a wandering of people. And there's this diaspora of Jews around the world. So in the mid to late 1800s, there's this movement towards Jewish nationalism and Arab nationalism and the belief of a Jewish state where all Jews could return home. And the area of Palestine has been under control of different groups for many years. A lot of this goes back to World War I, which, if you remember from history, caused a lot of the problems that we've had in World War II and then even some today. So in 1917, the Balfour Declaration was created, which called for a national home for Jews. At the time, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire. At the end of World War I, the Ottoman Empire was broken up, and to the victors went the spoils. Great Britain received the area of Palestine. So World War I, there was a mandate for Palestine put under British control. Fast forward to 1945, 46, you have the Holocaust coming out of World War II. This furthered the calls for a homeland for the Jewish people. So in 1947, the United Nations partitioned the land to allow Jews to return home. This obviously angered all of the people that live there. I want you guys to remember this is not a religious conflict, but this is more of a conflict over land. Right after 1947 partition, immediately following that, you have the war, the Arab-Jew War of 1948. Okay? The Jewish people in Israel call it the War for Independence. The Palestinians call it the Nakba, which stands for catastrophe. You have a series of conflicts that will lead up to then eventually 1967, okay, what is called the Six-Day War, where Israel was surrounded by countries like Egypt, Syria, and Jordan who wanted to defeat them, take back their land, and eradicate the Jewish state. In 6 days, the Israelis won that war. They furthered their control over three different areas in Israel: the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and Golan Heights. The Gaza Strip is on the west coast on the ocean. The West Bank is actually bordering Jordan and is on the east border of Israel. At this time, many of Palestinians were displaced. Thousands of Palestinians were displaced. So there's constantly been this struggle for land and power between the Palestinians and the Israelis who believe that they are right to this land, and the Palestinians who believe that they have been here all the time. Since 1967, you've had a series of terrorist attacks, wars, conflicts, all kinds of things that have gone on. You've had the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, that was run by a man named Yasser Arafat, which your parents would know, your teachers would know, you may not know. And now the West Bank, or I'm sorry, the Gaza Strip is controlled by the Palestinian Authority, the PA, and Hamas. Okay? Hamas, which is listed as a terrorist organization by the West because of the strategies of suicide bombings and everything else. In the early 90s, there was almost peace. Yasser Arafat, who was head of the PLO, and Yitzhak Rabin, who was the prime minister of Israel, met in Oslo, where they discussed a two-state solution. Later, Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by one of his own people who didn't want peace. So this gives you guys an understanding of how intense this conflict really is. In fact, Robert F. Kennedy, aside from the conspiracies, was assassinated by a man who was a Palestinian nationalist who believed that his support of Israel was wrong. Gaza, Golan Heights, West Bank have borders around them, now to this day, with checkpoints. The Israelis want to keep themselves safe, because they believe that there are threats from those areas, but many of those people share jobs, share schools, and they have to wait in lines to get through checkpoints. It's not necessarily a great place to live. Okay? The West Bank also has Israeli settlements in it, which angers Palestinians as well. Then there's the issue of Jerusalem. Right? Jerusalem was a capital, claimed as a capital by Israel, claimed as a capital by Palestine. East Jerusalem is claimed by Palestine. For many years, the UN said, let's just keep this as an international city, because as an international city, everybody, all of those religions can go there and feel free to worship. In 2017, the U.S. took the stance that they were going to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, further kind of intensifying the feelings there. There has been violence on both sides, with many civilian lives being lost. Some Arab countries, groups, have even asked for the eradication of the Jewish state. Okay? Like I've said, we are coming to this as a viewpoint of neutrality. Okay? In no way do I want any of the information that I have presented to be thought of taking aside. I'm just presenting information because, unfortunately, this is a reality that we live in, and a lot of people sometimes don't know what's going on. So in conclusion, understand this is a very long and complicated history, and until peace is achieved, it seems that every few years the conflict will intensify to armed battle. I have a message for you guys. I used to say this to my guys in my AP government class. Remember to trust the news you read. Try and find the most neutral news that you can read, and understand that TikTok is not a legitimate media site. And lastly, as we debate this and talk about it, which I feel is healthy, understand that you may have classmates who have family over there on either side, and be sensitive to the words you use when debating the issue. Now we're going to go to a video. I want you to know there are some scenes of war in it, but this is a great video for kind of explaining and summarizing the conflict. Thank you.